All right, hello everybody. This is Luna calling. Luna, that is litigating, undulating, nauseating, acculturating. Calling out to all of us, those lost in the novel and in the book, in the imagination, searching for sense and meaning in the realm of fiction.
That's right.
Yes.
Can I just say a quick shout out here to Andrew, who has spent a fair bit of time living in a bad fictional universe and has clawed his way, thankfully, out of it and back into the real. It's good to have him back. This has been happening during this season of recording Luna, so very happy to see an end to that particular story.
Yes.
And we will be talking a lot about fictional universes today.
Yes, as that is where we indeed did leave you all off last week. We were having a bit of a tiff, if you will, maybe, about what is the status of fictional ideas in Spinoza. You know?
I believe we are still having a tiff.
We're still having, this has been an ongoing discussion, but I mean, as we need to take a little bit of a step back, right? Because where are we? We're interrogating the mind of God.
That's right. We're in the mind of God.
Yeah.
We're in the beginning of part 2 of the ethics.
Yeah.
And the immediate context for this question of fictional ideas is the very famous Proposition 7,
Yes.
in which Spinoza says the order and connection of ideas is the same as the order and connection of things.
Yes. So the order and connection of ideas is the same as order and connection of things. That is, to use a technical term of extension, thoughts follow bodies, or thoughts follow extension. But they have to, or
thoughts follow thoughts and bodies follow bodies.
Yes.
In the same way.
And this is the very kind of the hotly debated, I suppose, thing about in Spinoza's philosophy about the parallelism of thought and extension, right? What is the way in which thoughts interact with external bodies?
Right, because there are two classic ways in which we assume the mind and the body interact, following Descartes, and in our kind of everyday philosophy that we work with in European and colonized European countries and whatever. One is perception.
Yes.
Right? So light rays, something physical hits our retina, and from that we get an image, and then we think what it's an image of. So there's a passage from the world of the body to the world of the mind.
Yes.
Right? And the other one, of course, is what we assume to be the workings of free will. Yeah. And I say to myself, I will now go and get myself some lunch. And I walk out the door and get myself some lunch.
I'm going to take myself to the gallery and I am going to view the work of art. I am going to impose, using my free will, I am going to go out and do this.
Yeah, there's a great Renoir exhibition, by the way, just down the road at the Musée d'Orsay.
Yes, it's very, very good. I went a couple of months ago.
Yeah, so we can be super purposeful, and in that way we translate, we move from a wish, something mental, to a physical action. Yes. So I think in everyday life, most of us assume that there's a causal relationship between the world of bodies and the world of the mind.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's kind of how we spontaneously exist. But one of the things that Spinoza is going to be emphasizing is precisely not only the connection between what we see as cause and effect, but the order. Because one of the things that Spinoza really, I think, emphasizes a lot is that we mistake effects for causes all of the time, right? We try and explain something that has happened to us in our lives without having investigated the actual causes. And so we kind of explain people's behaviors by their effects rather than investigating into the causes. So it's about the order and the connection.
That's right. If you want to become a proper Spinozian, you've got to start investigating the causality of all phenomena.
Yes.
But, and this is the great and the most important caveat, all causality happens inside an attribute.
Yes.
Right? And this is what he actually says in Proposition 6. He says that we can only talk about something being caused by God within the attribute of thought.
Yes.
So all thinking is caused by other thinking.
Yes.
Whether it's yours or somebody else's, right? And all bodily movement and bodily change is caused by other bodily movement and change.
Yes, and this is the parallelism, right?
Exactly.
Like their work.
They're kind of watertight in a way.
Yeah.
Each of the attributes.
Yes.
There's no translation in between the two. They just work, as we say, like in direct parallel.
Yes.
Right?
And in a particular sequence, but what Spinoza is going to be trying to get us to do is to not mistake our orders and not mistake the correction of things, not mistake thoughts for bodies, etc., etc. Right?
Yeah, and there's another way in which you could get this Proposition 7 completely wrong. You could say, yes, we're in the age of enlightenment,
Yeah.
right, in Europe, and finally we're developing a proper causal explanation of the universe. We no longer believe that everything revolves around the Earth, right? We've accepted that we revolve around the sun, for example. And so we're gradually progressing towards establishing this sameness between our ideas and what's actually happening in the universe.
Yes, we're closing the gap.
Yeah, and that's Locke's empiricist conception of truth. There's an asymptotic approach of our knowledge to the nature of reality.
Yes.
Spinoza will not have a bar of this.
No.
He's saying that what's happening in and between bodies in the universe is always already happening in and between ideas.
Yes.
Because God is a thinking thing.
Yes.
Right? And so that connection of ideas, it already exists.
Yeah.
Whether or not a bunch of poor humans have sorted themselves out and done the right scientific experiments and come up with the right hypotheses.
Yeah, these laws exist independently of our having investigated them, right? So it's almost like this is, the process of uncovering what the laws of cause and effect are of the universe, which exist independently of our empirical observation.
Yeah, and that's why Spinoza, you can argue, in a certain sense, he's a realist, right?
Yes. Okay.
He's a long way away from a certain side of like Bruno Latour and like a social constructivism applied to science or whatever, because these connections of ideas pre-exist any particular society or culture coming along and developing a scientific explanation of phenomena. But can I just say, Val, I'm going to tell you something in Italian.
Oh dear.
Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi ritrovai per una selva oscura che la dritta via era smarrita. Now, in English...
Yeah, I didn't. It's been a long time since I've done any Italian lessons. Actually, fun little tidbit for the listeners. I actually won the Kevin Rudd Language Award for Italian when I was in primary school because he was my local member. This is
What's
before
Kevin got to do with language?
I have no idea. This was prior to him becoming prime minister. This was prior to him kind of launching the campaign of we should all be learning Mandarin. To close to create closer ties to China in the future.
So why did you learn Italian? He wanted you to learn Mandarin.
Because he wasn't prime minister yet. He didn't have that vision, right? This was back when he was a local member and he was like, Italian or German. Right. And I won the language award just because I knew French. And I kind of
I'm very confused.
Anyway, sorry.
French, yeah.
So in the English, please.
Given that, okay. To the prize winner, I will now read this in English. Midway upon the journey of our life, I found myself within a forest dark, for the straightforward path had been lost.
Oh.
So there we are, thrown into the middle of a fictional universe, Val.
Yes.
So I can have ideas, right? Yeah. What is the body, the interconnected series of bodies that corresponds in the attribute of extension to the ideas I'm having thanks to Dante?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the kind of the question that we've been discussing off podcast time. Where did you? Well, I mean, you can ask the question: where did these ideas come from that produced this kind of fictional universe?
Sure. So we can do. I mean, there are various forms of literary criticism. There's all that like super contextualizing kind of new criticism or whatever. Yeah. You can do historicist criticism. You can go deeply into influence chasing as well and ask what the ideas. That's the cause of the ideas, right? And so I'll allow that Shakespeare read some Danish folktale and found some Hamlet or whatever character in it and was inspired by that to create his Hamlets.
Yes, and then maybe he read this Danish folklore tale, and then he said, "Well, I'm going to make this palpable to an English audience." So he's maybe drawing on maybe some of the personality traits of the people around him, and creating like a composite character, right?
He drew upon a very famous Italian philosopher, by the way.
Oh, which one?
So Giordano Bruno, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Bruno went for a tour through Elizabeth's England and spoke widely of his philosophy of there being multiple infinite universes.
Wow, the very universe that we are currently in with Spinoza.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Hamlet, when he says, I could be bound in a nutshell and count myself king of infinite space.
Yeah.
That's Giordano Bruno.
Word for word.
There you go. So you've got causes. You can say the idea of Hamlet has these causes behind it, which are the Danish folktale, right, and Giordano Bruno's ideas circulating through Elizabethan England,
which then are compiled or composed into, the work, the theatre piece or the play that is Hamlet. So we have a body. We now have a set of ideas contained within the body, a book.
What body do we have? The book?
The book is part of extension, unless I've totally misread Spinoza.
Yeah, but when I'm thinking Hamlet...
Yeah.
So, for Spinoza, ideas are ideas of things.
Yes.
Right? And I think you're going for like a super materialistic Lacanian kind of thing. You're talking about the literality of the letter.
It's about the material. Yeah, for me, it's all about the materiality all the way down.
Yeah, but when I'm thinking Hamlet, when Hamlet's speaking, right?
Yeah.
The body that corresponds to it in my mind is like a living, breathing human being. It's not a book.
What? So you've got a living, breathing human being inside of your head?
Well, I would hope it's not just inside my head. I hope it's being shared with other members in the audience if it's an actual play, or other people in the classroom if we're reading it in a classroom.
Well, aren't we then we are the ones who have the idea that I'm now causing in the minds, or that we're causing in the minds of our listeners by invoking it, right? So this is a way that an idea can cause another idea, but it's a fictional idea, right?
Yeah. So I think the tangle that we've got here.
Yeah.
Is a tangle in between what is the causality of ideas,
yes,
right? How do they get inserted into causal chains, cause and effect chains, and reference.
Yes.
What is an idea of, right?
Yes.
And I'm perfectly happy with Spinoza when he says, there's the idea of this table and there's this physical table and they're one and the same thing, right? Existing in different attributes.
Yeah, they're expressing themselves differently.
But this idea of the book being the body of Hamlet, the black and white, the ink on the page.
Yeah, you don't think Hamlet is contained within the play Hamlet.
Well, there are so many different books with Hamlet printed on them.
And so many different performances of Shakespeare's plays, of course.
Some of them very bad.
Yes. I should mention one of the other examples that we were discussing was, of course, the white whale from Moby Dick, which does actually have a historical referent, if I'm not mistaken, if I've gotten my order of causes correct. There was actually an albino white whale that was going around sinking ships, and doing battle with things. So, there is some kind of, call me, a materialist and
call me Ishmael.
But there is a kind of historical referent that we can look at in the chain of causes. Right?
Yeah, but I think that Moby Dick is so much larger than that particular white whale because in the hands of Melville, Moby Dick becomes like the devil incarnate, or
what are you talking about? It's just a whale.
He's possessed with intention.
No, this is where you're being Lacanian. Are you trying to tell me that the white whale is a metaphor for something?
Oh yeah. It's the absolute. So actually, what's at stake here now? Of course, because Spinoza's a great philosopher, we've got all kinds of resources for dealing with this particular question about fictional ideas. He knows. I mean, he's anticipated. He's seen this coming, Val.
Yeah.
He knew we were going to come up with this problem.
He knew that a couple of Australians would be sitting in a basement in Paris somewhere hundreds of years later trying to work. Well, God knew. God knew.
It's a determinist universe. Yes. We are meant to do this, right? And so he popped in Propositions 8 and 9 to deal precisely with this problem. And it's actually a big problem, I think. And this is why in my shout out, I spoke about living in bad fictional universes. Because for many of us, I read somebody recently talking about, I think it's Alenka Zupančić, a paper by her, in which she was saying, we think we're living in an interregnum. Like it's a bizarre period, a transition period in between the Cold War, the end of liberalism, and something else. But what if the interregnum is all there is? What is this bizarre world? And part of her thinking was, we're living in a bad fictional world.
Yes.
And how do we adapt to that? And there are a lot of related ideas to fiction. So there's error, there are lies,
Yes.
there's fantasy, there's ideology,
Yes.
of course. So for example, think of like the Americans. There are Americans apparently who still
Yes.
believe in manifest destiny.
That's it. It's still an integral part of their education system, like their high school, primary school education system, to my understanding.
Yeah.
Manifest destiny is precisely one of these ideas that determines the practices of and beliefs of, the American people. And, we don't really have an equivalent of manifest destiny in Australia. We have our own determining signifier, like terra nullius, like this is no one was here.
What about the lucky country? Do you think people in Australia still believe that they live in the lucky country?
I think that this is where I should give a shout out to one of my dad's best friends, Dr. Tom Conley, who was very formative in my own intellectual journey, and he gave me a lot of access to economic textbooks and spent many a night discussing them with me. But he wrote a book precisely called The Unlucky Country.
Oh, right.
Right? Precisely showing that Australia in the world stage is not lucky because it's always super precarious and dependent and vulnerable to what's happening in the global market. I think the period of us considering ourselves the lucky country didn't really exist in the first place, but it was a period tied to just economic booms because we had mineral resource, like mines. We had mineral resources,
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly if you're part of First Peoples in these settler countries like the United States or Australia, if you're one of the First Peoples there, then you certainly don't think that you're living in a lucky country or that the white Americans are incarnating some kind of manifest destiny. It's like complete rubbish. So from that perspective, you see the bad fictional universe that other people, the colonizers, are living in, right? But what's interesting about Spinoza is for all that, you're not launched into a world in which there are plural conceptual schemes, and you just have pure relativism. Because what he wants to be able to explain is what is the real causal grounding of the emergence of these different fictional universes, which are like sprouting up like bad mushrooms.
Yes, exactly.
Poisonous mushrooms.
Yes, and this is the distinction he's going to be drawing between the different kinds of knowledge, because, until you've got the order and connection of ideas and bodies, in the right order, you're going to be swimming around basically in the imaginary. You're going to be living in these fictional ideas whose causes you have not...
You're going to be Alice in Wonderland, wondering, what kind of mushroom can I actually eat?
Yeah.
And so many of them are poisonous.
So many are poisonous, and it's only through the practice of going out and consuming said mushrooms that we find the truth of, or putting them in a bœuf bourguignon. Speaking of Australia,
I think that's a bit on the nose. The poisonous mushroom reference, given the Australians in our audience.
Yes,
So how does he actually? If we get into it in Spinoza, how does he actually differentiate ideas of things that don't exist from ideas of particular things that do exist? And I reckon he does it in 3 ways.
Yeah.
Right? You ready?
Always.
1, location. Okay. Where is the idea located? Has it got a global location or a local location?
Yeah.
2, duration.
Yeah.
Does the thing of which we have the idea, does it last in time? Yeah. Right? Or not?
Or not, yeah.
And finally, can you place the body that the idea is an idea of, can you place that body in causal chains or not?
Okay, so we're working with these three levels of trying to work out where are these ideas. It takes a lot of work to locate where these ideas are.
Well, basically, I mean, what does he say? Right? He says, and this is the first proposition 8, right? And you've got to forgive us, dear listeners, but we are going to do a bit of a deep dive on this because it bothers us, because we've been having an argument about it. Yeah. And I think one of the things that's so fantastic about Spinoza's ethics is you can go deep into a really big problem and just be reading 3 pages of the ethics.
Oh yeah, he traverses so much ground, and I think it's also a problem that Spinoza himself acknowledges, because there's a kind of touching moment, I think, in the scholium of Proposition 8, where he says, I actually don't have an adequate example for what I'm about to say. I'm going to try and explain it as best as I can.
Yeah.
So it's a problem. It's a problem that he himself has.
Yeah. Right? So Proposition 8: ideas of particular things or modes that do not exist must be comprehended in the infinite idea of God, just as the formal essences of particular things or modes are contained in the attributes of God.
Oh dear! This is giving me flashbacks to when we were talking about Descartes. There's a difference between formal existence and I can't even. I struggled. Objective. I struggled with this so much. So you're gonna have to take the reins with this one, Ol.
Sure. Well, it's actually it's earlier on. He just shows he is using them in very much in the Cartesian sense, and he actually says that. When something objectively exists, it exists as the reference of an idea.
Yes.
So when he's talking about objective being, it's always with regard to ideas, to thinking.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Whereas when he's talking about formal reality or formal being,
yeah.
he's always talking about, well, because we only know the attribute of extension, he's talking about physical existence of things outside the realm of ideas.
So he's talking about the physical thing without the idea.
Yeah,
he's talking
independent
about,
of the idea.
Yeah, so that's its formal reality is a body without an idea.
Yeah, and there's a really simple way of reading this proposition. All he's saying is that ideas, like fictional ideas of things that don't exist, are just like any other ideas.
Yeah.
They follow from the infinite idea of God. That is, they follow from the infinite mind of God. They are ideas, just like any other ideas. Just as bodies all exist on the same plane. So it's a kind of like he's establishing equality here. It's not like there's something defective in fictional ideas.
No, not at all. And just to go back to the infinite idea of God, yeah, of course, like if God is thinking everything, then of course a fictional idea must exist somewhere in that infinity of the attribute of thought, right?
Yeah. And then what happens, like, when I spoke about locality, what do I mean by this? He says that ideas of things that don't exist are comprehended in the infinite idea of God.
Yes.
Right? And so that means is that they're included within, they're found within this infinite idea of God, which in a way is like the total idea, right? Yeah. So they're kind of globally located, right? And then what he's going to do is he's going to contrast this with another kind of location, right? Which is that of something being located, if I can just find the phrasing here, he says with concrete determinate location.
Okay.
Right? So either you're globally located in the infinite idea of God, or you're concretely and determinately located in the order and connection of causes within the ideas of particular existing things.
Yes.
So he says, for example, when you have an idea of a particular existing thing, the idea you have is caused by God insofar as he is affected by another mode of thinking, and God is also the cause of this latter mode of thinking insofar as he's been affected by still another mode of thinking ad infinitum.
Yes.
So what that means is, if you have an idea, not like in a mistaken perception or intuition of a thing, but if you have an actual adequate idea of a thing, you always already know the causal chain that led to that thing's existence.
Yes, otherwise you wouldn't have an adequate idea about it.
Right.
You would have inadequate knowledge if you had not placed that idea into the causal chain.
Yeah, so basically what have you got here? What he's trying to say is that with fictional ideas, you've got an indeterminate location.
Yes.
Right? Whereas with ideas of actually existing things, there's always a determinate location.
Yeah, it is the idea of something that exists in extended or material, the bodily reality, if you want to put it like that. It's interesting as well, like, I mean, this is another way that I was trying to think about it. So yeah, this has to do with its location within the universal idea of God. And if God can think everything, then of course fictional ideas must exist in the kind of, in the mind of God. But then I was also kind of thinking about it in terms of, like, we could also just think about fictional ideas insofar as they're kind of just composites. You know, most of our fictional ideas are still composite ideas of things in that we've encountered that have bodies, but they're not. But the bodies, their ideas of are discrete.
Right. So, like a unicorn, for example, is the idea of a horse plus
a narwhal.
A narwhal.
Yeah. Well, there's
That's
example.
a longish kind of horn you've popped on a unicorn.
But I mean,
there.
but the human imagination is it's quite large.
You
right?
can have an narwhal if you want. I'm not stopping you.
Our capacity to combine things, but there's the example I was kind of, maybe that all sounded a bit abstract, but the example I was thinking of, and this is one of Spinoza's own examples, I think, is it's a square circle, right?
Right.
You can't have a square circle, right? But we can still refer to two discrete entities, a circle and a square. I can combine them in my imagination, but there's something that's particularly curious about this combination, right? I have a word for it. We conceptually kind of go, okay, I have an idea of a circle, I have an idea of a square, but I can't combine them. But yet we can still refer to them.
Well, you can refer to it, but it instantly pops out of existence. Because all I'm getting in my mind is an overlap of a square and a circle.
Exactly,
just like in Leonardo da Vinci's, famous drawing of the what's it man, the Renaissance, not the Renaissance man, but what I'm talking about. Yeah, stretching his forearms out.
Yes, he's got 6 limbs.
That's right.
He's almost like the
Hindu god,
or the androgen from Plato's Symposium. He's just got extra limbs.
Yeah. So.
But it's a fictional idea that we can still refer to. But what's interesting about that one is that we can't picture it.
And one of the things I wanted to refer to here, so there's this book that I reviewed that I both was fascinated by and didn't like for reasons that I had to figure out, which is Tristan Garcia's latest work. And in that, he has a great deal of fun developing a catalogue of different metaphysics and ontologies, and basically saying, what does each philosopher designate as the lowest possible form of being on the hierarchy of forms of beings.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And so, for example, for Aristotle, it's both accidents, like accidental properties of substances, like a scratch on this bottle, right? But it's also contradictions.
Yes.
So for Aristotle, a contradiction can't exist, right? Whereas we know that in some forms of logic, certain forms of negations, there's room for contradictions.
Yes.
And we also know that for the sophists, they're perfectly happy to have contradictions existing as well.
Exactly.
So alternative ontology, you can have things admitted through the gates into the realm of existence that other philosophers want to dismiss, they want to throw out. Right? And so we can play the same game as Tristan Garcia does, and we can work out what are the entities that Spinoza might want to exclude from his ontology.
Yes.
Right? But here he's developing this attempt to account for fictional ideas.
Yes, and so, as we said before, it has to do with location, duration, and the placement of the body in the causal chain, right?
Exactly. So duration, he says, this is another difference between an idea of something inexistent and an idea of something that does exist, is that the latter is said to exist insofar as it has duration. It lasts for a specific length of time. It's got a beginning. It's got an end point, right? Whereas who's your favourite literary character?
Oh, man, you put me on the spot here. I'm going to say Etienne from Émile Zola's Germinal.
Right. Etienne. Does Etienne age?
He does in the book.
Yeah, but how far does he go?
No, it's a very short. The book happens only over a span of maybe a couple of years.
Right. So, do you know Etienne as a child? Do you know Etienne as a grandfather?
No, exactly. He just exists as an adult who doesn't age.
Right, exactly. Right. Whereas most of your mates, unfortunately, they age.
They're getting on. You know.
That's right.
With different topics of conversation, they start talking to me about kitchen appliances and things like that, and I said, "This is not."
Don't get me started.
What have we become?
So the whole thing. I mean, and I think that what he's got a handle on here is why it is that literary characters can be reinvented for new generations. So we're just about to witness the opening of hopefully one of the greatest films that's been produced in recent years, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Right? It's another take on the massive legends.
Yes.
Right? So we're going to see another kind of Ulysses, another kind of Odysseus presented to us. Not convinced yet by Matt Damon as the casting, but we'll see.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you will only be able to determine that once you've gone out and seen it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
that's a very Spinoza's kind of point, right?
yeah, and I think, well, I mean, you take a figure like Hamlet, you can count like all the different Hamlets that you've seen, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I produced a play of Hamlet. So one of my Hamlets is actually one of my students who did Jesse, who did an absolutely fantastic job. I've got Mel Gibson in my head. I've got Kenneth Branagh in my head.
Yeah.
I've got Adrian Lester from Peter Brook's production in my head as well. And so what you have is a character that is indeterminate. So a fictional idea is indeterminately located.
Yes.
Which means that you are free to locate it in different contexts, in different networks of causes, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the way in which literary work allows us to be endlessly inventive when we either imagine it for ourselves when we're reading a novel or when we perform it if it's a play.
Yeah. And that's how we talk about the enduring legacy of certain works of art, right? This is precise because it can get reactivated and still have some kind of meaning for us, even though there are thousands of years which separate us. So there's, in the sense, what Spinoza is saying here is that fictional ideas have a relationship to eternity.
Yeah.
They don't have duration. They're not bounded by, the laws of extension, right, of bodies. In this, like in the example that you just used, the people I know have duration, whereas ideas, like the idea of the Odyssey, continues on in eternity. But then again, if I wanted to be a little bit cheeky, the book The Odyssey emerges at it has a starting point, right? The idea continues from that point into eternity, but there is a point in history where the book emerges, where the story. Yeah. Sorry, not the book. The story. It's first told as in
an
the oral tradition, and then it gets written down.
Yeah, and we don't even know if there was one poet called Homer. It's just like it's a presumption. Yeah.
So Homer is also potentially a fictional idea.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, the proper name is super important, kind of,
Yeah, but this is important, right? So fictional ideas have this kind of relationship to eternity. There's something that endures that is not bounded by the duration, a certain duration, right?
Yeah, but it's a success. And so this is the thing that fascinates me, right? Because there are certain fictional ideas which fall flat and don't work.
No, yeah.
Like, there are all kinds of like amateur authors out there, all kinds of professional authors, and the works don't sell because they're not convincing. People don't suspend belief when they read them.
Yeah.
And one of the questions I've always had, and this is why I started with the reference to Dante, is how does an author make a fictional universe cohere? Right? Yes.
Yeah.
And there are like simple, ready-to-hand answers to this. So in the world of like fantasy fiction, like Tolkien, for example, or even Harry Potter, there's a one-word answer to that question, which is lore. Lore.
Yeah.
You have to have stable lore.
Yeah.
For a particular fantasy universe to work, right?
Yeah.
And it, it's, you can watch YouTube tutorials on how to construct lore for your fantasy world because it applies to video games, of course, as well. And Game of Thrones, right?
But that can't be the only condition because there's loads of different fantasy novels that have tried to create a lore and it doesn't work.
Yeah, or it's totally derivative.
Yeah.
But this works also in other genres. And the thing that's fascinating about Dante is that he tries to include ancient authors' fictional universes within his.
Yeah.
He tries to be all-inclusive. So basically, like all of those mythological and fictional characters that we love, like Achilles, for example, he pops them into one of the circles of hell.
Yeah. Doesn't he encounter Plato? Is it Plato up the top?
Up the top? Why would he be up the top?
Because I think, isn't he in the first... Is Plato... maybe this is me in my own fictional universe. I can't remember who appears where. But I feel like there's one of the Greek philosophers, I think, who appears quite early.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of Greeks. And in one way, he's playing like one-upmanship. He's just basically saying, I am a Christian author.
Yeah.
And I will place you pagans in hell because you did not recognize the one true God. Yeah. Right? But what I find fascinating is that he does manage to create this consistent, coherent, vast universe. It's so enormous, right?
Yeah.
And says he kind of contains these other otherwise like rival fictional universes.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like Hegel in the history of philosophy, like including other philosophies within the system.
Just vacuuming them all up,
one giant vacuum.
Apart from, at least if we listen to Pierre Macherey, the one philosopher that he really struggles with assimilating is Spinoza.
Right, that's interesting, yeah. Let's talk about this one example that he comes up with, which he says is not adequate, and he's sorry he can't come up with others.
Oh, yes.
The circle, right?
Every time I feel like I've gotten away from the geometric shapes, like I thought I'd had enough of it with Descartes. Now we're back at it again with Spinoza. At least he's not using triangles this time, so I'll allow it.
Let's see if we can do this without a whiteboard, just in the minds, our minds and the minds of our listeners.
Well, we should be able to do this. Yeah.
Draw a circle in your mind, Val.
Yep.
Right? And now I want you to take one line from one inner side of the circle and strike it right down through the circle.
Right across,
right? And then do the same again.
Yep.
So that you've got two intersecting lines going across the middle of the circle.
So I've created,
inside the circle, right? And you'll notice that those intersecting lines, because they intersect, they divide each other up into a short and a long segment.
Yes.
Right? And you can take that short and long segment and turn it into a rectangle.
Yes.
Right? It just so happens that, so say that you've got one line AB and another line CD, right? And they intersect in X. The rectangle that is AXXB is going to be the same size as the rectangle CXXD. The same size, right? And what he says about this is he says that there are infinite lines, intersecting lines, and equal rectangles that exist inside the circle. Yeah. According to Euclid, right?
That is a very spooky kind of proposition.
They're infinite, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the status of a fictional idea for him. Yeah. Because the fictional idea is contained in the infinite idea of God, like the infinite intersecting lines are contained within the idea of a circle.
Yeah. So I kind of... just because we're using the images in our minds, another silly way of doing this is draw a rectangle and then spin it around really fast in your mind. What's the shape that's going to appear on the outside of the spinning rectangle? It'll be a circle.
Oh my God. I just got a rabbit popping up in my head. Pull the rabbit out of a rectangle. So,
but the rectangle is contained within the idea of the circle. But there's an infinite number of rectangles that are possible within this circle, right? By moving the lines.
So I think this is interesting because with any philosopher, with any great philosopher, you've got like an important problem, like what is a fictional universe? And the philosopher gives you tools, right? It's not going to give you all the tools, but you've got some tools. And these are quite powerful tools. You've got indeterminate location within a global idea. And now we've got infinity as well, but a kind of virtual infinity. And it's another way of thinking this kind of way in which fiction opens up all of these like different interpretations and different possible incarnations as well. Right?
And it's great investigating these kind of enduring questions, right? When you feel that something is not being addressed, or there's different tools that are available to try and address these questions. It's worth pursuing all the different avenues and trying to work out how this philosopher is going about trying to deal with these kind of philosophical questions that you may have. How might this philosopher account for this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and shall we read out Proposition 9 just for the hell of it? Because this is about location, the location of ideas.
Yes, okay. So this one's all about causality, right? So the idea of an actually existing particular thing has God for its cause, not insofar as he is infinite, but insofar as he is considered as affected by another idea of an actually existing particular thing. And God is the cause of that too, insofar as he is affected by another third idea, and so on ad infinitum. So there we go, infinity again.
Right. Yeah. So there we have this contrast in between an idea, a fictional idea has God as its cause insofar as he is infinite.
Yes.
Whereas an idea of an actually existing thing has God as its cause insofar as it's affected by the idea of another thing and another thing and another thing and so on and so forth.
So it has a location in the causal chain, right? The ideas of physical bodies have an existence in the causal chain that necessarily goes back to God, but a fictional idea which doesn't have the referent to physical bodies has some kind of relationship with infinity or eternity, right? It's somewhere in that infinity.
Yeah, it calls up like these infinite opening horizons. I think that's part of the addiction to literature that I got when I was young.
Yes.
Was this idea of these, like, one horizon after another opening up. Like, you could just wander and wander and wander in a book.
Yeah, I mean, it's a creation of what... I mean, this is something that I will always be thankful to my father for, was... I remember when, because we were just speaking of Lord of the Rings, right? Tolkien, when those movies were coming out, he forbid me from going to see them until I'd read all the books. Oh, so it was always like a mad rush, you know...
To read the book.
Because I was quite young. I was quite young when those books came out, and they were like just on the cusp of being a bit above my pay grade.
Right.
But yeah, no, because he said, I want you to construct that universe in your mind first, and then see how somebody else did it.
Yeah.
And that was always something that...
Yeah, and it's an insane experience, like constructing the tunnels underneath those mountains where the dwarves used to live.
Doing the Mines of Moria, imagining what the Balrog is, you know, like what...
That's an astonishing, like, you know, imaginative experience in itself.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the power of an incredible... A writer produces worlds in your mind, right? Like, and it interacts with your own imagination, you know? And I mean, this is what's so fascinating. You know, we could read the same book, but the world that we construct out of the words on the paper would be quite different, I imagine.
Yeah, and we get stuck on different bits. But I mean, this is a beautiful segue into the next major question in the ethics, in part 2 of the ethics, which is, what is a human?
Yes.
Right? And he pushes that aside quite quickly. But the bigger question that he's interested in is, what is a human mind?
Yes.
Right?
Because as is part of the order of the ethics, right, he started with what is in the mind of God, this infinite thing, and he's moving down into the particular, what is the human mind.
Exactly.
Right? In this kind of, you know, part 1 in the ethics, we start with, you know, the infinity of infinite attributes, and then he's moving towards the more concrete things. So at the beginning of part 2, he started with the mind of God. Now he's moving down into what is the mind of the human being.
Yeah, he's narrowing down.
Yeah. Each step of the way. I
mean, so what's interesting here is, like, he just takes one proposition to deal with the question of what a human being is, right? Yeah. And my reading of this is he's basically sweeping aside a bad interpretation of Descartes' Meditations.
Yes.
Right? And so a whole class full of my students, when we were reading Descartes about 2 or 3 years ago, they all said, look, the cogito, the subject, Descartes' subject, is God. Right?
Oh.
The infinite freedom to doubt, the infinity of the will, the power of the will is exactly the same thing as the infinite will and power of the author-creator God.
That is a fascinating reading, though.
They didn't buy either of the proofs of the existence of God, but what they did buy is that Descartes was actually talking about himself in those proofs.
Got it. So Descartes is making himself all-powerful, the one
the infinite subject.
Yeah, I am the one, through the method of doubt, I am the one who determines what existence is.
Yeah, and I think Spinoza is saying, hold on. I mean, I think he's been in a bunch of reading groups, right? Like he's down at the Clyde with everybody else before it even existed.
Yeah.
He's been in a bunch of reading groups with radical Protestants, right? And he knows that because he said that everything that exists is a mode of substance, all these modes are kind of joined together causally, right? They're all just expressions of God or nature.
Yeah.
And so if he's going to say that human beings are modes, right? It's very easy for people to say, oh, we're all incarnations of God. We're all Jesus.
Yeah. Oh, right? Yes.
He's going to have a million messiahs on his hands.
Yeah. And no, he doesn't want that.
You can't have everybody saving everybody else.
Yeah, you don't want to deal with that. Yeah.
No. You've got to have some people who are like, who need saving.
But also saving from what? I mean, for Spinoza, there's no
debt. There's no sin.
There's no heaven. There's no hell. These are just kind of mythological, ideological.
They're bad fictional universes.
They're bad fictional universes. And I think that's quite a good spot to leave it off for today, don't you think? Because I feel like once we make this movement from fictional ideas into the human mind, you know, we've spent all this time in the world of fiction, But we're going to get down into the concrete of what is the human mind next week, surely.
Yeah, as long as we keep in mind just one thing, Val. Human beings are not God.
I beg to differ.
Till next week, it's been a pleasure, as always, to have everybody on board.
Thank you very much. And we will, delve into what is a human mind.
And do we actually have one?
Yeah, I often doubt that. All right, see you later.
Bye.